Planning CNC projects can feel pretty overwhelming when you're new to it. Toolpaths, bit changes, pass depths, operation order, there are a lot of different things to keep track of, especially if you're doing double-sided machining. So in this video, I want to slow the process down and break it apart, step by step. Because even though this tray project is simple, it teaches a lot of the core ideas behind working on a CNC. So in this video, I'll show you exactly how I designed, planned and machined this tray, step by step. Let's dive into it. To make things easier to understand, I'll use these simple graphics throughout the video, and after each step in the process, I'll show you the real machining operation on the CNC itself. For this project, I'm using the Lunyee 3020 Nova that I reviewed a few weeks ago. The rigid frame and 800 watt spindle makes projects like this fast and consistent, but most desktop CNCs should still be able to handle this project just fine, with slightly lighter settings. For bits, I'm using a 1/4 inch single flute upcut for clearing material and cutting the main shapes, and then a roundover bit with a 5mm radius to create the edge profile of the underside of the tray. The design work for a tray like this is extremely simple. You really only need 2 rounded rectangles, the outer shape of the tray and the inner shape of the tray. That's it. The dimensions are completely up to you, depending on the look you want, the material you have available, and the limitations of your machine. Since the design is so simple, you can do the entire drawing directly inside most CAM software. I'll be using Easel for this project. First, I'll get the material dimensions. I'm going to fit 2 trays on this board, 1 on each half, but to make centering easier, I'll only design one side in Easel for now. Then I draw the 2 rounded rectangles. The outer dimensions of my tray will be 120 by 85mm. And the rim around the tray will be 5mm thick, which is simply the distance between the 2 shapes. Now, this is where bit size starts becoming important. Because CNC bits are round, they physically cannot create perfectly sharp inside corners. The smallest possible inside corner is limited by the radius of the bit itself. In my case, the bit diameter is 6.35mm, meaning the smallest possible corner radius would be about 3.175mm. A smaller bit would allow sharper corners, but for this tray, I prefer a softer and more rounded look anyway, so I'll go with 6.5mm corner radius instead. And with that, the design work is basically done. These shapes now become reference paths for the CNC, and depending on the operation, the machine can cut inside the line, outside the line, directly on the line, or clear everything inside it like a pocket. Now that I have the design ready, it's time to get the material mounted and set the work 0. I always start by homing the machine first, then I jog over to my work 0 position and make a note of the coordinates before setting 0. That way, if something goes wrong later, I can always send the machine back to home, manually jog to those coordinates again, and recover the exact position. I'm starting with the single flute upcut bit, and the first operation is a light surfacing pass. To do that, I draw a rectangle slightly larger than the material and create a pocket toolpath with a shallow depth, usually around 1 or 2mm, depending on how uneven the surface is. I'll put the settings on screen as a reference, but these numbers will vary depending on the material, spindle power, bit size and machine rigidity. A lot of this I've had to learn through trial and error. One thing I like about this machine is that I can adjust the spindle speed while it's cutting. That makes it much easier to fine-tune the cut by ear. What you're looking for is a cleaner, higher-pitched cutting sound, and actual chips coming off the material instead of fine dust. If you're mostly getting dust, the bit is usually rubbing more than cutting. This would definitely go faster with a proper surfacing bit, but I don't have one yet, and this still works perfectly fine. It just takes a little longer. Now it's time to start working on the actual tray by clearing a pocket down to full depth. I'm still using the single flute upcut bit here, and this time I'm creating a pocket toolpath from the inner rectangle of the tray design. I set the cutting depth to 21mm. After the surfacing pass, I reset the set work 0. Technically, I could just lower the set position by the 2mm I already removed during surfacing, but I prefer using the paper method again, just to be sure. I do have a set probe for this machine, but I don't really use it that much. The reason I chose the depth of 21mm is because the board originally started out at 30mm thick. After surfacing this side, I removed about 2mm, and I'll remove roughly the same amount after flipping the board later. That means a 21mm deep pocket should leave me with a bottom thickness of around 5mm. which also matches the thickness of the tray walls. From the surfacing pass, I could already tell that this bit leaves a pretty decent finish, but if you wanted an even cleaner bottom surface inside the tray, you could always run a very shallow finishing pass afterwards. The only thing I noticed are some faint vertical marks from each plunge movement along the pocket walls. They're extremely shallow though, and would disappear almost immediately with a light sanding pass or a finishing cut. If you like this machine and want to check it out, I still have a 12% discount code, which is a better deal than most of the campaigns Lunyee runs directly. Now, this bit isn't long enough to cut completely through the material once I flip the board later, so before flipping the piece, I'm going to cut some of the cutout depth from this side first. For this operation, I'm cutting outside the path of the outer rectangle. There's a little bit of risk in doing this, because once you start machining from both sides, alignment suddenly becomes extremely important. If the flipped piece is even slightly off, the cuts from the two sides won't line up perfectly. To solve that, I'm using a simple alignment system based on reference holes. I draw 4 holes near the corners of the material. It's important that the tray design is centered between these holes. And then I machine matching holes onto both the workpiece and the sacrificial board underneath. Then I use pegs to locate the material when flipping it over. What matters here is not whether the board itself is perfectly centered. What matters is that the design and the alignment holes are perfectly related to each other, and that the design is centered between the holes. Because the CNC always references the same work zero position, the flipped operation lines back up with the original machining. This is one of those things that sounds a bit confusing at first, until you actually see it happen. For the holes themselves, I use a drilling operation inside Easel. The CNC lifts the bit between each plunge to clear chips automatically, which helps prevent clogging and gives a cleaner result. The alignment holes are finished, and now the board is mounted onto the pegs. Not quite as snug as I wanted, because the pegs I had didn't perfectly match the hole diameter, but close enough for this project. And since I'm leaving tabs on the final cutout anyway, I already need a little sanding afterward, so any tiny mismatch from the alignment will disappear during cleanup. I also repeat the surfacing pass on this side of the board. And again, this is important when planning your project. Every surfacing pass removes material thickness, and you need to account for that when calculating your final tray depth and bottom thickness. Up until now, I've managed this entire project without changing bits once, which saves a surprising amount of time. But now it's time for a bit change. I want the underside edge of the tray to have a soft rounded profile to make it feel a little more refined and comfortable to hold. For that, I'm switching over to a roundover bit with a 10mm diameter. That creates a 5mm radius on the edge. And now I'm cutting directly on the path of the outer rectangle, not outside the path like I did for the cutout. I could probably have pushed the cutting depth a little more aggressively here, but instead I do the roundover in 3 separate passes. And looking at the final pass, I can see I went maybe 1/10 of a millimeter too deep, leaving a tiny ledge underneath the tray. But that's completely fine, I'll sand the underside slightly afterwards anyway. And if I had to choose, I'd much rather cut slightly too deep than too shallow, because going too shallow leaves an incomplete roundover shape. Now for the final CNC operation, the cutout. Just like before, I'm cutting on the outside of the outer rectangle path. And for this operation, I switch back to the single flute upcut bit. This time, I'm cutting deep enough to meet the clearing pass I already made from the other side of the board. And at this point, the tray basically becomes a loose piece trapped inside the material. To prevent the tray from subtly shifting around or getting damaged by the spinning bit, I add tabs to hold it in place during the final cut. Inside Easel, this is very simple. You just enable tabs and the software automatically places them along the cut path. You can also adjust the size and thickness of the tabs if needed. And with that, the tray is finally finished. I cut the tabs loose, do some light sanding to smooth everything out and remove the tabs, and then apply an oil finish to bring out the grain. The rounded edges make it feel really nice in the hand, the proportions worked well, and once the machining was dialed in, the whole process became very efficient. But more importantly, projects like these are great for understanding how CNC machining actually works and what you need to think about during the planning stage. I hope you enjoyed the project and that it helps you take on your first CNC tray.